Okay, so welcome if this is your first time here in our class. Welcome back if you were here on Wednesday. So just a little bit of logistical stuff at the start. So there was a lot of new info that I threw at you last class that had nothing to do with math, but was really more about policies and structure of the course. And one of those pieces had to do with creating a My Math Lab account. So I've already talked to a few people. This table, how are we doing? Did we have a chance to do that over the last couple of days? So not yet. We'll add it to your list of things to do. But again, there was that handout that I gave out last time, looked like this, and it's got step-by-step process to walk you through. I don't know how much the access code costs if you go through the website. Can somebody share with us? $90. So that is the only cost you will incur for this class. There is no separate textbook. You'll have access to the textbook online, the whole textbook. If you prefer a print copy, that's going to cost you a little bit more money. But if you're comfortable accessing the textbook on the website, then $90 will be the only expense you incur for this class. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial. So even if like the funding isn't there at this moment, or you just need a little time to process and figure things out, sign in today, create that account and use it for the next 14 days as you work things out. That way you won't fall behind on all the homework, right? And falling behind in a math class is a bad thing to do. Okay, how about, let's see, so you weren't here. Did you have any? Okay, great. So again, I can show a lot of latitude here in the start of the semester. I know there's a lot of policy stuff that I threw at you, and it'll take us just a little bit of time to get in the swing of things. So no sweat if you don't have that homework done for today. But we can start checking homework and stuff on Monday. Okay, so again, we're starting on page 9. Welcome. Page 9 of the big, it's this guy right here. Yeah. Okay, and a reminder, or if you're here for the first time, a first-time announcement, get yourself a 3-ring binder. I said $90 was the only expense. A 3-ring binder will run you like $2. Add that to your list of things to buy. If you can't afford one, I'll give you $2 to get one. It will make your life a lot easier in this class, okay? All right, so this is our syllabus calendar. It lives on the very back of the syllabus that I handed out the other day. It also lives on Moodle, which would be like a cleaner copy if you wanted to look at it and have it be a little bit clearer. And we'll just take a very quick look at this calendar at the start of every class, just so we know where we are and where we're headed and kind of what's coming up. So today is January 30th. This is lesson number 2. Why are there 2 dates in here? Because I'm looking at the wrong tab. There we go. All right, today is still January 30th, lesson number 2. I think we finally found it. There we are. The practice problems column we're ignoring for the time being. I'll share that with you maybe on Monday. Quests and tests, we'll talk about those, but we have our very first official assessment here on February 11th. That's our quest, and it covers material from lessons 1 through 5. Right now we're in lesson number 2. Okay, so that's our first in-class assessment coming up. More info on that. Today we use equations to solve problems in algebraic expressions. Questions on where we are? Okay, so just a couple of other logistical things and then we'll jump in on page 9 of that big packet. First thing, if you haven't yet had a chance to log into Moodle, I'd encourage you just to go in and make sure that you can access our course Moodle page. Not to say that you need to, and some of you might never need to use the info that's in here, but in case you need it and the test is tomorrow and that's not a good time to discover you don't know how to log into Moodle, okay? So if you're not sure how to log into Moodle, see me right after class and I will help you. But inside of Moodle, you'll find some documents like the syllabus, if you lose your copy, or the packet number 1 is the big packet. So if you're just missing a couple of pages, you can reprint them. Or if you marked up all these pages and you want to try those pages again for more practice, you can reprint them. So that's there. But something else that's here says this packet 1 filled in Ian. So if you open that up, you will find this PDF. And this is the stuff that I wrote on the board in Wednesday's class. And so in some classes, students feel obligated to like copy frantically everything that the teacher writes up on the board at the expense of maybe being present, being able to like participate and engage cognitively with the material. I don't want you to feel that way in this class. Write enough so that you can look back at your notes and know what happened, but recognize that this will be up on Moodle as a backup, right? Everything that I write, you'll have access to in a PDF. One other thing I wanted to mention here in Moodle is this link to playlist of class videos, and it's got my name next to it. So if you open that up, it comes to YouTube. Right now there's a playlist with exactly one video. I record all of my classes, and that's the video from the other day. And so if you missed class the other day, then this would be a good chance for you to get a sense of what you missed. So you'll check out that video, and I'll just play a small clip of it right now. Okay, so you see what happened on the smartboard, and you hear my audio, and I'm telling you, this is going to blow up on YouTube, this video right here. This is the next Gangnam Style. That's what this is. So it's no substitute for being in class. I want you guys here and helping each other out, because a lot of the class is about you guys working with each other on math problems. But if you miss a class, this is the best substitute I can offer. And even if you are here in class and you don't quite remember, okay, how did Ian do that again? You can check it out, right? Just watch the parts that you're interested in. A real good way to do that is to write down the time. Like if you're confused and you don't feel like asking a question in class, I mean, I encourage you to ask, but if you don't want to ask in class, just make a note of the time. Oh, I had a question at 8:46, and then you can just quickly zip to that time in the video, right? Any questions on any of that? Okay, so enough of the logistical stuff. Again, we're on page 9 in that big packet. Let's go to Cody. Could you read the daily summary, please?
In this lesson, we tackle our first world problem, first word problem, and see a powerful technique for starting. Pick a random number to figure out.
Thank you. Let's go to Sean for 0. Thank you. And Lucas, number 1.
Sometimes when you're asked to write an algebraic expression to describe a situation, you may not know what intent numbers. Let's see how we pattern so that price.
Thank you. Number 2, Irene. Okay, so the basic setup here, the cruise costs however much it costs, $2,752. But there's a group discount. So if you can find enough of your friends to go in on this with you, the price comes down. And every time another person joins your group, what's the discount for each of you? It's $1.75 for every person that goes in, right? And so we want to know, can we get that price from the starting $2,752 all the way down to $2,500? That's our buy price. So the question is, how many people do we need in our group to make that happen? Now, it's quite possible that some of you already know the arithmetic calculation you need to do with those two numbers and the $1.75 to answer this problem, and that's great. But this is an algebra course, and so we're going to be doing some algebra, and we'll introduce a variable in just a minute. And again, even if you can do some of these early semester problems in your head without any algebra, I encourage you to use the algebra, because that will prepare us to do the ones that are tougher, which are coming up, which we probably won't be able to do in our heads, okay? All right, so here's the idea. Instead of introducing a variable as the first thing, let's just pick a random number. Suppose that 10 people are traveling in our group. Just made that number up. So that means 10 discounts, right? $10.75s. What do I do with the 10 and the $1.75? What's the natural thing to do with those numbers? Is what? That's true. And what is he accomplishing? What is he doing he's multiplying those two numbers, right? That's the natural thing to do. So we know we need to do 10 people times this $1.75 off per person. And so that gives us $17.50. And then what do I do with that $17.50? Take it off the original $27.52, right? That's my discount. And so all of that is written out in here. 10 times $1.75. Hi, welcome. And that's the $17.50 that we each get off. And you take that off of the original price, and we're down to $2,734.50. All right. I would love for you guys right now to do the same calculation with 50 people. Oh, yeah. So 50 people. See if you can fill in the blanks, and we'll come back together in just a minute. All right. It's okay if you haven't quite finished yet. Well, let's come back together and get this problem resolved. So what am I doing with that 50? Somebody we haven't heard from yet today? Multiply 50 by the 175. All right, anybody have that number for us? 8750? That was said with a question mark. Is that anybody else confirm?
I got that.
8750. Wonderful. And then what do we do with that 8750? Somebody we haven't heard from yet? $27.52. Subtract the $87.50 discount. Anybody have that number for us? You said how many cents? I think it's got to end in a 50. Is this the right number?
Oh, sorry, I put that as 8. Yeah, you're right.
Is this right?
I put 8.
2644. Anybody else get that? What'd you get? Oh, okay. Anybody else have a final answer that is either the same or different than this? It's not right? Okay. Okay. Somebody help us out with this subtraction. Okay, can anybody else confirm that? 266450. That seems reasonable. Okay, super. All right, and again, the goal here is to try to figure out how many people we need in our group to bring the cost all the way down to 2,500. We're not there yet, but we're getting there, right? The cost continues to go down as more people join our group. We're trying to get to 2,500. Okay, so we're going to do algebra on the last row, but first we need to take this detour in number 3. Let's go to Kayla. Okay, so we have time and hours, and they're definitely related to each other. One of them is called a quantity word, and the other one is called a unit word. The unit is just the fundamental thing that we can all use for comparison purposes. So yeah, let's see. Time is the unit word. So let's see if we buy that. So it says if you're not sure which is which, you put a number in front of each word, and the word that makes sense with that number is the unit. So let's make up a number like 5. And we will say 5 time versus 5 hours. Which one makes sense? Is 5 hours, which means hours must be that unit word, right? Hours is the unit word. Because, for example, 5 hours makes sense. So by process of elimination, the other word is the quantity word. Okay. So number 4 talks about carefully defining the variable. I'm actually going to ask you not to look at what I've written there before, which is kind of the answer to this problem. But let's go ahead and define our variable up here. Now we need to very carefully identify what we're trying to solve for. What do we want to find in this problem? We want to make the cost $2,500. Which means finding the number of people it will take to do that. So that's what our variable is going to be. X is the number of people in the group. We'll get 2,500 in when we write our equation. It doesn't belong in the definition. X will just be the number of people in the group. If you say X is the people, I would take points off because X is a numerical thing. And people is not a number. Number of people, that's something I can count, right? But there are a lot of other things I can count for people. I could count the height of each of the people in this room, right? I could count the weight of each of the people in the room. I could count how many eyes each of you has. There's a lot of things I can count with people. What we're talking about here is the number of people. Okay, so we're going to follow the same process we did up above. In the previous row, we took 50 and multiplied it by $1.75 off. What do we do that's analogous in this last row? We're going to do $1.75 times the x, yeah? And that's the discount we're going to receive. And let's see, so when we calculated that in the previous row, it was just $87.50, and we subtracted that from the $27.52, right? Which of those numbers belongs in the general form we're creating? Is it 2752, right? That's always the starting point. And then it's always subtract the discount. But the discount here has an x now. What is it? It's 175x. And that right there is an expression. It's not an equation. It doesn't have an equals in it. It's an expression that represents the cost per person. Now, some of you might have been able to just create that expression from the start, and that's totally fine. Remember I'd said try not to just do these things arithmetically, like in your head. I want to see algebra. Totally okay if you can jump to that without the two first rows. But if you are stuck creating an algebraic expression, you just don't know how to make the thing, you don't know how to build the thing with x in it, just pick a number. That's the moral of today's class. If you don't know how to start algebraically, pick a specific number. Most of the time, the pattern will fall out once you have a specific number. Okay, so then finishing this problem isn't too hard. So we're not going to look at the details here, but we just take that expression and we make it equal the desired price that we wanted to pay, which was the $2,500. And $2,500 didn't come into play until just now. So there's the thing we just wrote, 2752 minus $1.75x. You make it equal 2,500. Everybody in this room knows how to solve that kind of equation, so we're not going to take our time now doing it. Turns out x is equal to 144. Okay, so big conclusion here in number 5. Who is our last reader? Who's over here? Could you read number 5 for us?
Solving real problems. Order to solve real estate problems.
Picking. Thank you. And you're going to keep this technique in mind as you start the activities on the next page. So if you get stuck, if everybody at your table is stuck, you raise a flag, I'm going to come over. And the first thing I'm going to say to you is, did you pick a number? So if you don't know how to start, pick a number. It's great if you can dive right in with the algebra and the x's, but if you're not sure, pick a number. I can just about guarantee you will have a way to get going if you have a number in front of you instead of this kind of generic x, okay? So activities are on the next page. Last thing before you jump in, there are yellow folders on the table. This is where you're going to sign in every day with the time that you come in. And so if each of you could just write your name at the top of one of those rectangles, you will each have your own rectangle. So introduce yourselves, write the names down on your paper and also on the rectangle, and write down the time you came in.